Okay, I think we're up and running and we're live. So folks can let me know in the live chat if we're sounding and looking okay. We've got a couple more minutes till we get Johan on and get our flight going. Hope everyone is well. Let me know if you can see and hear me okay. We have Lisa. Oh, looks like it's reconnected now. Somehow OBS Studio was disconnected, but it just brought up a reconnection thing. So I think it's stuff on my end. Might be just the school's network or something. I'm not sure. The computer's been a little bit funky this morning. So hopefully you can see and hear me a little bit better now. Okay, so it sounds like we're reconnected. Yeah, this, it may happen again. So just we'll hope things work out. Let's also remember how lucky we are to have, oh, it just says it disconnected again. And then it said it reconnected. So I don't know what's going on there. I think it's just a network thing on my end. So we'll take what we can get. So we're just kind of stalling time a little bit, waiting for Johan to finish up the flight he had just before ours. And then once we get going, we're going to do one flight up and over the eruption area. He has another flight scheduled right after ours. And so we will need to part ways with him once that's going. And then we will do a quick update and answer some questions if you have any questions. So you can use the live chat to submit questions, and either Susan or Lisa can compile those and then get those to me by the end of the broadcast. Yeah, hopefully it's coming through okay. It seems to be disconnecting and reconnecting on my end, just on and off. So we're just going to sit here patiently and wait for Johan to come through and connect to me. Send a quick text to Amanda Joe. Oh, good. Sounds like it's back up and running now. So, yeah, maybe we could, if there's any questions, I'll just watch the live chat for now until we get Johan connected. Okay, sounds like he's adjusting the Wi-Fi, and so he's getting things ready to go on his end. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day, morning, evening, night, as the case may be. We could maybe spend a few minutes talking about what's gone down with this eruption so far. The most interesting thing, I think, was the timing. As I've said before, that this eruption happened a little sooner than we thought, and it was a little different in some of the signs leading up to it. And in thinking about that a little bit more, the fact that we had very few earthquakes, and then there was just a quick little swarm of earthquakes within the hour or so preceding the eruption, it seems like we've established the conduit, the plumbing system that conveys the magma to the surface seems to be even better established now than it was before. I think in previous eruptions, it went in different directions at times, although it was fairly consistently in this area. But we saw that with this eruption that it didn't take a lot of earthquakes to get the magma to the surface. And remember, in the update I did the day before, there was actually not a downturn in the uplift data, but it plateaued, it flatlined. The inflation stalled, And we speculated that maybe it was a lull in the magma supply. It could be instrumentation or some interference or something like that. And so in thinking about it, I wonder if maybe that was the magma was actually no longer inflating underneath the power plant because it was actually moving through, maybe slow and sluggishly, but it was moving through the conduit system it had established, and it was able to move through those conduits without generating any seismic activity because it was able to do it without breaking rocks. And so we'd gone from a brittle environment where rocks needed to be broken, generating the earthquakes, to more of a ductile environment where the rocks are hot and they're able to bend and flow without breaking, and that would sort of keep the seismicity down quite a bit. And so that's at least one thought I had in thinking about all the things that kind of went into this last eruption and some of the data we were looking at in the days or weeks or so leading up to that. Just a thought there. Yeah, I'm not sure if the lava was significantly hotter and lower in viscosity this time. It's all the same composition. It's all needing to be more or less the same viscosity, but I don't know that the temperature's actually been measured, or the viscosity. It looked very similar to what we'd seen in the past. That was a question from No Longer Listless. Paul in the Netherlands wants to know, is there any signs of increase of movement of America and European plates? Remember that's more episodic, so those can kind of take a little bit of time for...
Hello there.
Hey, Johan, there you are.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. It's back-to-back flights all day, all night, pretty much. So
I appreciate you squeezing us in as best you can.
yeah, we should have time for at least one flight. It was very windy just an hour ago. It's much better now.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to give you the takeoff button right away.
Okay.
So why don't we just head straight north as far as we can get to that eruption.
And your audio is working today. I figured it out. So people are hearing.
Fantastic. Hello, everyone. Yes. I got Amanda Jo here with me. And
excellent.
You can picture her on top of the wall. So do you have a takeoff button?
I don't have the visual yet. I can hear you, but I don't see anything yet.
Am I on the right flight? That's odd.
Oh, I just saw something there for a second.
Oh, okay.
But then it went away.
I just backed out, sorry. I thought I had maybe the wrong flight. So here we go again. So let me know when you do have video.
Yep, there you go. I see the hood of your car.
Okay, do you have a takeoff button?
Not yet.
I see you booked with the email address. You're connected with the same user because you have a Gmail and you have an
they use the EDU one, yeah.
So now you should have a takeoff button, right?
Not yet, but I can see the hood of the car. I can see all the...
Okay, turning it off, turning it on. Tell you what,
Yeah, you can just get us going. That's good. That works just as well. All right, so we're taking off from near Grindavik, just north of Grindavik. There's Amanda Jo, everyone. Wave, Amanda Jo. There she is.
Give us a wave.
There we go. Excellent. Yeah, if you just want to get it going. I've been having some buffering issues with the computer this morning, and so yeah, I think in the interest of time, this is just as well.
Okay, sure. And let me just I have to just jump up there. And,
looks like another nice day. Sun's out.
It was very windy just an hour ago. And I could only fly up to the eruption, stay there for couple of minutes. Then it wanted to return.
Right.
Do I have better signal once I get up there? All right, I'm here.
Oh, you're ascending the berm right now?
I am ascending the berm.
Oh,
yes.
wow. He's flying a
Climbing the
drone
defensive
and
wall.
and doing some mountain climbing at the same time.
Yeah, I had some awesome flights during the night, actually. Midnight, and that lava flow to the southeast, which nobody was really filming or covering, was absolutely amazing last night. So the southern segment of the fissure was feeding that flow to the southeast, and the northern segment was feeding that great lava river flowing west.
Right.
So it was a kind of two very different sites.
Yeah, and I understand that now we're down to like 3 vents, 3 places where the lava's erupting. Is that jive with what you've seen today?
Yeah, and that was the situation tonight, last night, sorry. And but in the dark, it was just very, very visually fulfilling to see, especially the river flowing southeast, because it had this iconic dragon scale.
Yeah, with
all glowing under there.
Yeah, with the black kind of slabs floating on the channels.
Floating, breaking apart,
right,
remelting, solidifying again. Oh, we're down to 7 or 8 meters a second wind. Yeah, it was like 14, 15 before.
Are the winds out of the north today, or?
It's directly from the east.
Oh, east. Interesting pattern. That's a little different.
Because this place is usually so good for flying, because you got mountain ranges on both sides, to the west and to the east. So it's usually calmer here than in most other places around here. There's a reason why Grindavik is where it is.
Right.
Well, it's perfect landing for ships, of course. It's a natural harbor, almost. And but also, it is a weather sweet spot. Like west of Thorbjörn, it can be crazy weather, and east of Fagradalsfjall, also crazy weather, but somehow just nice weather here in between.
Yeah, just kind of nestled in there.
Exactly.
So why don't you? It looks like I think I might have control now, but keep flying till we get there, and then if you want to turn it over to me, just to kind of mess around there, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm just sort of flying you there.
Yeah, that's great.
Quickly and efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
So we have the maximum loitering time over there.
So are we over the fresh lava now, or is this still older lava from the August or May eruption right here?
It starts here sort of right in front of us.
Okay, I can see the color change.
Yesterday we had that line of outgassing and moss fires.
Okay, yeah, I can see the transition right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So over probably the May flow and then onto this November flow.
Precisely. And here you see the outgassing on the right, on the east side. That's sort of the fringe.
Right. Do you want me to? Do you want me to stay near these 2 southern vents, or?
We're just going to pass this one quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
Try to get a nice view of it.
Right. So we've got a nice little
sun is low in the sky and really strong, so it just turns all the colors.
Yeah, mutes them a little bit. We have a nice little spatter rampart on the west side of that vent. It's feeding this little lava flow on the east side. You can tell which way the winds were blowing there. All the spatters accumulated on that west side from those east winds.
So this one is still molten here under this.
Yeah, we can see the red there.
We're going to head for the other one, though.
Okay.
Ooh, need to take it up a notch.
It's like the middle one's kind of the more productive one. That's the one feeding the big flow to the west by the Blue Lagoon.
Yes. Okay. And I'm hoping we can... Oh, we still have more than 70% left.
Okay. Well done getting us there. Thank you.
We're just going to turn control over to you once we are...
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so we've got a nice spatter rampart there. So this is still more of a fissure system. You see it's elongated, and so it's building up the spatter on both sides, and so it's building up more of a ridge there. Excellent.
I just started a 4K recording, so you won't be able to do photos.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna. Yeah, it's your control now.
Okay. I'll wait for that to come through. Right now it says it's disabled. Might be a little bit of a lag.
Oh, it still says disabled.
Yeah. Yeah, I say just keep flying around. I'll just narrate. How about that? Normally,
yeah,
I
sure.
think my computer's a little wonky this morning. Otherwise, I think it would have responded. So I don't think it's anything on your end. So yeah, viewers, we have this great vent here that's still spewing out lava, building up this ridge of spatter, lava spatter on either side. And then you can see that's feeding that big channel there at the northwest end. That's that lava that's just pouring out of this thing. And then that is the main lava channel that's moving off to the west and covering parking lots in the Blue Lagoon and such. Nice little
spatter cone here.
Yeah, a little chugger right there. Yeah, great.
Trying to get out of the smoke and
great
follow
footage.
our lava river here. Ooh.
Yeah, so it seems like the output's decreased a little bit since yesterday when we flew over it, which makes sense, but just visually it looks like it's a little less, but still pumping out quite a bit. And as long as it can sustain this rate for a while, that flow at the western edge probably will continue to advance. I think it took out the entire parking lot. Now it's moving further westward. Yeah, great view there. So now we're looking back to the east at, so this, interestingly, this middle vent is directing most of its lava to the west, not much of it's going off to the east. And that can change, as that lava builds up on one side, it can raise the topography, and it might preferentially go in a different direction at some later stage. So it sort of depends on where and how that lava is being pushed to the surface and where it's flowing. And that'll kind of dictate where it goes. But two well-established channels right there, right at the south end of Stora Stokfeld. You can see the northern vent there in the distance. That northeast vent looks a little less productive than the middle one. Gosh, that's beautiful. And then the two channels merge right here and form one larger channel. And then this is the one that took out the road just to the west. Now we're panning around towards the west. You can see Keflavik in the distance there. And then there, I think I can see where the road crosses right there.
You still have zoom control.
Okay.
So where do you want to go? You want to go closer to there?
Yeah, let's maybe just go over there just a little bit. I know a lot of people have been interested in just how far that western flow is going.
I've got a drone leased or borrowed from DJI Reykjavik. Thank you, DJI Reykjavik, because mine had a little accident.
Oh yeah, thank you, DJI Reykjavik.
I haven't really set the smooth camera controls like I have normally set up.
Right. Yeah, so you can see the road there that's covered. We're just about coming up now to where this lava channel is covering it. So most of the lava beneath us here is somewhat solidified, but that channel's still molten and flowing there on the right side of your screen, right across the road. And then, yeah, you can see more or less the western extent of it there, the berm around the Blue Lagoon. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to go too far that way. It's just nice to kind of see how far that flow has progressed. We can check out the vents or whatever you want to show us next.
Ah, okay. I got it now. Yeah, so I'm not flying with the mobile modem at the moment because the wind is so high. It kind of breaks its...
Yeah, it becomes choppy.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a mountain here in the distance. I mean, there's a mountain
in between us. Yeah. You got
Remember the other day when we were flying with the 4G modem on board? We can like dip behind mountains and don't have to worry about the RC coverage, which is really great. But it's not really, well, it messes up the aerodynamics of the drone. So
yeah,
it's not good for high wind conditions.
Yeah, so it had to struggle just to get out to where we are now, and just kind of staying in position with the blockage and stuff is tricky. A nice view there to the east, that middle vent, still pumping out a lot of gas. You can see that bluish haze from the sulfur. And then some of the topography we're seeing here is it's cutting through some of these older spatter cones. There's that southern vent there. And it'll be interesting to see over the course of the next day or so, like, you know, will it, looks like that southern one might be the weakest of the three. Does that one shut down? Does it start to focus the eruptive energy into the middle vent moving forward? Some of the colors you're seeing down there in the flow field, just different levels of oxidation, more reddish areas or places where there were old, that looks like an old spatter cone there at your bottom left screen that we just passed. There's another one right in the middle. And those spatter cones, because they're, you know, shooting up frothy lava with lots of gas bubbles in it, becomes very porous material, and so you get a lot of oxygenation of that iron in the basalt, and so that's why it ends up being a bit more red in color. Some older cones there, degassing. Yeah, just
so yeah, that northernmost event we might be able to check out later if I move.
Yeah.
To the north end where we flew from.
Yeah, from Eagle's Nest. Can you fly out of Eagle's Nest still?
Yeah. I'm not sure. That's a good question. So I was streaming with Ryan on afar.tv on the night of the eruption, and I haven't really checked, but it might have sort of engulfed. Well, Eagle's Nest is, or Arnarsetur, that's its real name. It kind of sits high above, so I was kind of expecting it to be engulfed on both sides.
Right.
No, I think we can still get.
Yeah, as long as it's accessible. There's a nice channel in the right there below at the bottom of our screen, that little canyon. Yeah, that's where this lava river from this is the May eruption. And that was one of the pathways coming out of this cone right in front of us here. Lava coming out of the north end of this spatter cone and then feeding that channel. And then you can see where, as the lava's drained out, when that eruption ended, it's collapsed down. So it probably had a little bit of a tube system there. And that's why you see these pits or these little kind of mini canyons on the landscape. That is a nice cone. That's just...
Yeah, it's our favorite.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Lots of colors, good shape. And folks, yeah, we're doing this compliments of NatureEye, so you can go to their website, natureye.com, and keep Johan busy. Remember that even if the eruption ends in the next few days, that we've had just as much fun and found it just as captivating to fly over this landscape even post-eruption. So don't feel like you have to do it when there's an eruption taking place. If you go to natureye.com, you can book a flight. If you put in Shawn Fly, SHAWN FLY, That'll get you 10% off. And you'll have your own little session with Johan here in Iceland, or you can choose another location. NatureEye has locations around the world where you can book a drone flight, take photos, and there's drone operators on the ground to keep you from messing up. So don't feel like, well, I don't know how to fly a drone. If you can push buttons on your keyboard, you can fly the drone. They have a little tutorial you run through to make sure you're kind of good to go. Yeah, and here's our little crack at the south end of Hagafelt that was from the May eruption. So a different type of little canyon than what we just saw over by the spatter cone. This is more of a tectonic crack, or a fault, if you will, that's opened up this gash in the ground, just cutting right through the lava there. Such a neat landscape. Little cone there on the left going by. Some of the mineralization from the different colors. Excuse me. And there's a nice view of Grindavik with the setting sun.
Well, it's not setting yet.
Well,
it's just low in the sky.
Right. It stays right there, and it just keeps moving to the right.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it does.
Yeah, it just stays there for like the next 3 hours.
I'm happy that the wind died down a bit. I thought I had to cancel today's flight.
No, I think it worked out well. How's the weather look the next couple days for you there?
I've had back-to-back flights. I haven't really had any time to watch the news or what's really going on.
Yeah, you're just in survival mode. I get it.
Yeah, well, just back-to-back flights.
Yeah.
Right.
I see.
So yeah, I haven't really been able to check the weather forecast, but then again, it's not really all that accurate.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, if there's a huge storm coming across the Atlantic, then
yeah. We see you standing on the berm, you two.
Yeah, we're here, both of us.
Yeah, very nice. Well, this has been great, Johan. Thanks for squeezing us into your busy schedule and getting us a view up there. That was fantastic. I'm glad Amanda Jo was able to come out and meet with you and see how the whole process works.
Oh, yeah, that's great. We're having lots of fun.
Excellent. Great. Well, thanks so much again. Thanks to our good friends at NatureEye. Remember, viewers, you can book a flight with them. Go to their website, natureeye.com, if you want to take a look at that. And we'll go ahead and let you go because I know you got another flight right after us. But thank you so much, my friend. I'm glad we got the audio working too and we got to hear you. That was great.
Yeah, thank you very much. And your photos and that 4K video, I'll have to share with you tonight when you get home.
Yeah, I'll just look for it tomorrow or something. So thanks so much, Johan. You have a good day, my friend.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye. All right. Hopefully that went pretty well. Excellent. So we got to see Amanda Jo there with Johan. Got to fly over the eruption site, which was pretty awesome. Great, good times. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'll try to share some of those pictures or video that he took from the drone flight. We'll figure out a way to share those on the website or something like that. So I think what we'll do now with the rest of our time together, I don't have a ton of time. We're actually leaving today as a family to head down to Arizona for vacation for Thanksgiving week. And so I've got lots of little packing and errands to run, but I've got a little bit more time we can spend doing a bit of an update on Iceland, just to look at a little bit of the data that's come in the last day or two. And then also I could probably answer a few questions. So I think we could go another maybe 30, 40 minutes or so, if that sounds okay to you. So we just flew over the eruption site, but there's the webcam view. So there are a few webcams up showing everything if you want to see all that yourself. We can go to the latest Met Office update here, which is actually from yesterday. And make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, yesterday at 4:15. I imagine they'll come out with another one later today. But I'll show you the photos here in a second. But the main talking points here in the Icelandic Met Office update, that lava flow that went off to the west and went through the Blue Lagoon parking lot, that's the furthest west we've seen flows from these eruptions over the past year. So kind of a new precedent set there. Seismic activity and deformation very low. I will show you a very cool INSAR interferogram that shows what the elevation has changed, the ground deformation pattern that's changed over the last few days. The speed of the lava was estimated yesterday at about 100 meters per hour. So they actually were able to calculate the rate there a little bit. And they'll come up with a new risk assessment map at some point as well. Initial measurements indicate that the volume of magma is almost half of the volume that flowed during the August eruption. So even though this one might have been pretty impressive, it's about half the amount of lava that emanated from the August 22nd eruption. They'll probably be able to crunch some more numbers here in the next few days. The lava flow that extended further to the west actually went over the hot water pipe coming out of the power plant. Remember that was the same pipe that was severed in the February eruption, and that was a bit of an issue because that supplies the hot water for a lot of homes. Remember that they went back then after that eruption and buried the pipe. I think it's down about 2 meters. And so as it stands now, there is lava sitting over that pipe, but it's buried 2 meters down. And so far it's holding up just fine. So remember that this rock insulates really well. So even though you've got that lava 2 meters above that pipe, it takes quite a while for that heat to actually infiltrate and move down through the rock. And so the hope there is that, and I would imagine now, as long as the lava keeps flowing, it's probably going to be okay because you develop a bit of a lava, a solidified layer at the base of the lava flow, which will insulate the ground beneath it from that lava as it continues to progress. So that's good news. And then they've got this little time lapse here just showing here's one of the buildings at the Blue Lagoon, and you can see the advance of the lava flow here with some of the equipment coming across the roadway. And they probably were able to just measure these distances here and with the time component to figure out the rate of movement. Kind of a similar view here, zoomed out a little bit. You get more of the full view of the Blue Lagoon complex here, and then that lava flow moving across the camera view there. So that's it for the Met Office update. They're probably going to come out with something later today, I would imagine. A couple other things we can look at here. The earthquakes over the last 24 hours have dropped to basically nothing. There's only been 2 quakes recorded. Even if we throw on, 3 total quakes in the region over the last 24 hours, which is within the eruption window. Typical pattern of what we see once the eruption begins and the lava is flowing through the conduits. We typically don't see that lava in the subsurface causing enough pressure to break rocks and produce other earthquakes. If we look at the past week or so, I don't know why this isn't loading the topography here, but you can at least see the dots here. So these red dots are mainly dots or earthquakes that took place just before the eruption. And the biggest one there is this one, which is probably about a 2. Again, my computer's being very slow and sluggish today, so might not get that in. Close enough. Let's look at I was having trouble getting the GPS data in, so let's see if that'll open now. Here we go. Well, mostly. While we're waiting for that to load with my very slow computer, let's check out the interferogram, because this is the one I think that's most telling. So here we have, they did a pass before the eruption on November 20th. Okay, so the radar is bouncing off the ground, measuring the distance to the ground, and then it flew over again the next day, November 21st, after the eruption happened. And so you get these really awesome concentric rings here around the magma storage area, the magma chamber. So these are actually measuring the deflation. So this is as the magma has been erupted over this day or so period. This is the deflation going on and the ground actually sinking. Over here, what we have is where the eruption occurred. And because we put lava out onto the ground that was not there on November 20th when the satellite made the first pass over it, this is all lava on top of the ground. So this is actually the ground has been raised. So you've created topography and raised the ground where the eruption took place. And then over here, where you took magma out of the ground, that's where the supply came from, there was deflation. So you can see the concentric rings for the deflation around the magma storage zone, and then this more convoluted area of these tight bands, because this is where the lava actually erupted. So a very cool pattern there in the interferogram. Okay, now we've got some of the GPS data coming in. Yeah, weird. Computer is not my friend today. There was a moment during getting the drone flight up when I couldn't connect to the NatureEye site where I thought it's not going to happen. We are not going to have a flight today. So, and even though I wasn't able to control the drone because I think it was something with the lag time connecting. Yeah, come on, computer, you can do it. I believe in you. Go, go, go. Anyway, we'll come back to that and see. There we go. Now it's kind of loading. Patience, grasshopper. So here's the best one to show you. Let me get myself out of the way a bit here. Here is our favorite station, Svartsengi, one of the stations that's most centrally located over the magma storage zone. North-south movement, east-west in the middle graph with green dots, and then the up-down motion with the red dots. That's what we've been tracking. So you can see the ground moving up over the last 3 months or so, inflation since the August 22nd eruption. Here's where it flatlined the last week or so, and we speculated on that on, I guess, what day was that? Wednesday? What that might mean and if that was real. I think it was real. I think this was the magma no longer needed to continue to pressurize and push the ground up. I wonder if during those days there, if that was actually the magma was leaving the storage zone at a fairly steady rate, moving through the conduits, the plumbing system, and then preparing to move upwards below those vents and erupt. So that's a possible interpretation of what we saw there. But now you can see these 3 dots here. So now that the eruption has begun, there has been a downward movement of the station. That's typical of what we see because magma is coming out of the ground, going onto the surface. And so question will be over the next few days and weeks is, will this start to flatten out and turn around? And will we see, after this eruption ends, will we see inflation resuming, which would indicate that the magma influx is still continuing. There's still magma being pushed from a deeper source into this shallow storage region here. So we'll have to wait and see. Interesting, though. And then the last thing I have for you for an update before we get to your questions is a great 360 shot. This is from Jacob Vegerfors, and he has given us permission to use this, but he put a drone up sometime probably yesterday. So looking to the east there at where the eruption's taking place, here's Siringarfeld, Blue Lagoon in front of you, power plant right there. And you can actually very nicely see the lava flow coming around right next to the defensive berm. The parking lot used to be right here. So the parking lot's completely destroyed right here. And then that lava flow continuing to push west. So great photo there from him. Okay, so I think that's all I had for you as a way of updates for today. And so let's see what questions we have. So Susan and Lisa are doing a great job with moderating the live chat. And Susan's got a set of questions for me. Let me just pull those off the screen. I can read those. So from Safi19, Given how successful berms have been in diverting lava, is the greatest future threat to buildings or homes earthquakes? I mean, the berms have done well. I think the lava will always be a threat, even with the berms. You know, we've seen them work pretty well. But we've also seen that, you know, where you place them can be an issue as well. So we had this eruption in January that actually breached the berm. And in that case, the berms are essentially, you know, useless. We lucked out with this eruption in January because there wasn't not a whole lot of lava associated with this eruption. And so it didn't really progress into town very much. I think they're definitely worth, you know, the money they've spent on them and what infrastructure they've been able to protect. I think they've totally proven their value. And so I think they'll continue to be used, but it's not a foolproof method of mitigating the lava hazard. It's just a really good way of doing something ahead of the lava flow to protect whatever infrastructure you might have there. So earthquakes will always be a hazard in Iceland. Lava flows will always be a hazard. Other volcanic hazards, like, you know, in more explosive eruptions, ashfall. If there's lava-water interaction, that can create problems as well. So I think it is still a threat to homes and buildings because you can't get them out of the way, but it's proven to be a pretty effective tool if, you know, and depending on the conditions for the eruption. So I think it's proven its worth, and I think it's a mitigation technique that they'll continue to use for some time. Yeah, thanks for your question there. Okay, let me grab another question from Jeffrey Porter. Why do we see the hook-like feature on the up and down GPS after the last 2 or 3 eruptions? The ground continues to subside for a few days before starting to inflate again. Is this normal? Yeah, we've seen that on several, with several eruptions. We're trying to think of where do I need to go to get like a year's. Here's where we can get it right here. So let's get, so what Jeffrey's referring to, I believe, is, yeah, this sort of pattern here. I don't think I can make these bigger, can I? Oh, maybe I can. If the computer will load them. So usually after the eruption, we have sometimes seen just inflation resuming right away. And in other situations, we've seen, as he talked about, the little hook, the deflation continue, stabilize, and then start to inflate again. Yeah, okay, my computer definitely hates me today. But you can see it right here. So, yeah, so here's the whole last year inflation, and then here's our December 18th eruption. January 14th, it's a smaller little downward movement because it was a smaller eruption. February 8th, March 16th, May 29th, and August 22nd. And really, it's just these last 2 that really nicely show the little kind of hook there. It looks like the Nike swoosh, right? And so the idea here is you get the eruption occurring. That causes deflation. You're removing magma from the subsurface. But then remember, the May eruption went on for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe, something like that. And so you're erupting magma, but there was still some deflation over that period of time before the influx of magma from deep became the more dominant trend and then started inflating it a little bit. It could be a little bit more subsidence as the rocks are heated at this point, having gone through so many subsequent eruptions that they're a little bit more ductile. So as you withdraw magma from the system, you get a little bit of downward motion of the ground over time. Yeah, those are just some thoughts on that, but excellent question. From Mrs. Hamburglar, how far is the lava from the top of the berm at the Blue Lagoon? I'm not sure. I don't know definitively what that, I mean, we can kind of guesstimate just based on the photo here. It looks like it's, you know, several meters away, maybe, I don't know, 6 to 8 meters. It doesn't look like the lava has filled up against the berm, at least on this part of the berm here. It'd be interesting to see if that's true along the length of it as well. So I don't have that knowledge in front of me, but very good question to ask. From Moonchild Straver, do you think the lava this time is coming from a different magma source with it being so much more fluid? No, I think it's coming from the same supply, and I think that it's as fluid as we've seen with the other ones. Sometimes what you might see initially is that the initial magma can sometimes be a little bit stickier, depending on if it's, removing a plug of magma that was kind of stuck in the conduit system. But once that's removed and you have a through flowing system of magma, it's very fluid. And that maybe is what we saw here, was that there wasn't much magma. The magma maybe moved through slowly the system over the last few days. That's why we saw the inflation signal flatten. And then once it was was close to the surface, all that was needed was an hour or so of breaking rock through earthquakes, and then that fairly fluid hot lava could make its way through to the surface. From John Weiss, during another stream that went after dark, you could see individual vents in an elongated cone. Is there a study of the dynamics of how a fissure narrows into individual vents? Yeah, good question. Usually you just can't sustain, the initial fissure rips open and the lava is coming out of the entire fissure, but that's not sustainable. That's because you have a highly pressurized system. So as the pressure drops, you can't sustain the force needed to propel the lava along that kind of linear length through the system. And so it drops, and so you end up getting isolated vents. The other thing that can be happening too is if the pressure drops in one spot along the fissure, is now that lava is not being propelled out, but can start clogging the vent. And once you get enough material clogging the vent, either the spatter that's coming down around the vent or actually the magma trying to move through the system, then that stifles that section of the fissure. And then in other places, because you've lost pressure in one area because you're no longer propelling lava out, you can keep it sustained in other places. And that's why some of these little vents and cones can go on for some time. From Ma Bodhi Fiamma, do we know how long is the longest fissure erupting? Well, at its longest, I think the number we got the night of the eruption was about 3 kilometers. So at its height or peak flow, we had a fissure of that length. And now, as we saw with the video flight with Johan, we're down to just a few places along the zone there. Maybe we can go to, we could pull up this. This might be a good thing to look at. Wait for the computer to load that. And then next question from Aerostar, with the formations that result from faster cooling rates in, say, Iceland versus tropical regions of the planet result in different morphologies, or are those temperature differences insignificant? Yeah, another good question. It's insignificant. The lava is coming out at basically 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 1,200, 1,300 degrees Celsius, something like that. And whether it's coming up into cold, frigid air in Iceland in wintertime or warm tropical air, if you think about that difference there, whether you're in Celsius or Fahrenheit, if it's maybe a difference of 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 20-ish, 25 degrees Celsius, it's fairly insignificant. It doesn't really matter what the air temperature is when that lava makes its way to the surface. So, yeah, great questions there, team. You guys are on point today. So, yeah, I can do a couple more. Susan, if you send me whatever you have, I think we'll just end it with that. If there's one more set of questions, if you want to send that to me now, that would be great. And we'll just round it out with that. Again, apologize for the shorter live stream today. We're leaving on vacation later after my wife gets done with school. And so we'll be, just little things to do, packing, chores, that sort of thing. I can grab this one out of the chat right here. From Maximilian 1122, how did this eruption happen unexpectedly with low earthquake activities when we thought it would happen December, January? So something happened underneath and the system changed again. Well, so to be clear, the location of the eruption was exactly where most people thought it would be, as well as I. So the location was spot on. The timing was a bit soon. We had just barely kind of entered the window where we thought we had enough magma in the storage zone that could lead to an eruption, and so we were barely within that time frame. And so, we just entered that window, and most models that we've seen. Let's actually go back to the. Oh, let's see if I can find it. Now I closed that window. Never mind. But if you remember, typically it takes uplift above and beyond the previous eruption. That's what pattern we had seen, that the inflation signal at any given GPS station needs to be higher than the previous one. So you can see where this one ended up kind of plateauing and peaking right here at about, let's say, 120 or so millimeters of uplift. This one doesn't show the prior signal, but the prior one typically is lower than that. And in this case, we're pretty even to where it was, and you can't see it on this graph here, but it's pretty even to where it was with the August eruption. And that's something we don't typically see. We usually see the uplift of that particular cycle needing to be higher by some margin. And this is where Bruce's great, our good viewer, Bruce Garner, his great graphs and projections, models on when we would see the next eruption. He had it around Christmas time, Christmas to New Year's time, because the percent increase of uplift, he calculated that, modeled that into his projection system, and that's where we thought we would need to get. And so that's sort of the idea, if that makes sense there. So it was unexpected in that we thought we were still a few weeks away in terms of needing that uplift and that additional pressure and supply of magma to trigger the eruption. What I think we've learned here, at least one takeaway, would be that perhaps in those previous eruptions, we needed to overpressurize the system in order to create the conduits and get the magma out to the surface. And possibly now what we have is a system that has a well-established conduit to bring it to the surface, and we don't necessarily need to overpressurize the system. We just need to get it to a certain pressure range, and then that conduit is open and efficient enough that we can supply the magma to the surface. I think that's kind of what I would say as a possibility right now, a possible interpretation based on what we've seen. So what will the next cycle and eruption look like? Well, now we know that we have two different models, right? There's the overpressurization, get the elevation higher than it was previously, and then there's this cycle. So I think we've seen two patterns here now. So moving forward, it'll be interesting to see, do we go back to the old pattern, or is this new pattern the one that kind of defines the system? Okay, last set of questions from Susan, and thank you, viewers, for sending in your questions. Aerostar wants to know if LiDAR maps are available for the area. Probably, but I don't know where. So if anyone figures that out or has information on that, that would be a great bit of info to share with all of us. As real quick, before I get to the next question, I did see in the live chat, many of you are viewers of Nick Zentner, and he was on the live chat there. I just glanced over and saw him, and just hoping he's doing well with him and his family. So Nick, we're thinking about you and hope you're well. Okay, our next question from Johannes Gunther. Do you have any idea why this eruption came so unexpected? Yeah, I think we kind of talked about that just previously with the previous question. So it was unexpected in terms of time, not location, not, and there was some models that projected if we got to that higher threshold that we would have a larger supply of lava in the eruption. And so far that's not the case because we were able to trigger an eruption at this lower threshold, which really worked out well if you think about it. I mean, if you had to, there was going to be another eruption in this area anyway, and given where this eruption took place and how it played out, I think it's gone about as well as it could have. Locations further away from Grindavik, flows, no matter if you pull the eruptions further to the north away from Grindavik, you're going to get flows typically that either impact the power plant Blue Lagoon area, or if they're further to the north, they're going to impact the roadway, which you could argue is maybe a worst case scenario, not the worst case, but a worst case scenario, because there's not any defensive mitigation structures up there. But here we have the structures in place. So having this eruption kind of in the middle, and have this eruption produce lava whose primary threat is the Blue Lagoon power plant area where there's already the defensive berm, you could easily argue this was like about as good as it was going to be in terms of location and intensity and such. From Zandanga, when you have time, could you please talk about the conditions needed to create Pele's hair, like how fast the wind, how high the lava shoots up, how often those little strands form? Thanks. I don't have any specific numbers. I'll try to guesstimate a few, but what creates Pele's hair is when we have, like we had here with these fissure eruptions in the early stages where the lava is being thrown out of the vent. The lava is airborne. It is being shot and propelled upwards by those gases coming out of solution, just like we can see in the distance here from these vents. So as that lava is propelled outwards, as clots, both large and small, the jettisoning of those lava particles will cause the lava to sometimes become elongated or stretched. It's kind of like taffy, the consistency of the lava, and it can be stretched into, especially the tiny little blobs, right? Not like the big clots, can be stretched into fine, thin filaments that cool quite quickly. They don't have much surface area, so they cool almost instantaneously and form a glassy type material. Now it's not obsidian because it doesn't have that chemistry, but it's glassy like. And then that material can be carried by the prevailing winds in a downwind direction. How much wind would it take to move that? Well, it probably doesn't take much. You can get Pele's hair right next to the vent. In fact, you oftentimes do, with really essentially no wind. In the case of what we looked at yesterday with one of my updates, we were finding people have found Pele's hair, and I showed you a photo of that from in Grindavik. And so that means that that northerly wind was carrying that strand of lava, the Pele's hair, about maybe 2-3 kilometers to the south. And we'd have to look, you could look at see what the wind was doing in terms of velocity on Saturday, or not Saturday, on Thursday when the eruption took place. And that would give you some idea as to how much it takes place. So how high does the lava need to shoot up? Not very high. A few tens of meters is plenty. How fast does the wind need to blow? If the wind's not blowing at all, you can still create the Pele's hair, but you probably won't find them because they're falling down next to the vent where you're likely not standing, and they're probably getting coated and destroyed quite quickly. But you can preserve those Pele's hair by transporting them further away from the vent, having them settle on the lawn and grass in Grindavik or on top of the moss, someplace where you can see it and pick it up. So good question there. From Jean-Francois Mezet. Sorry if my French, pardon my French. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. Is this endless stream of eruptions in the past year something which is common in Iceland or unique? I think it's pretty common, and it hasn't been an endless stream. It's been one eruption every 4 to 12 weeks, something like that. But it's quite common that when you get into an eruptive period, when you have magma moving up from depth, and you've created a shallow storage area, and you've created a conduit to the surface, that you'll get on and off eruptions over some period. We saw that with the Krapa eruptions in the north in the 80s, 70s, whenever that was. Certainly this area here on the Reykjanes has shown that to be true with some of the prehistoric eruptions 800 years ago, that they were on and off for some period. So it's not unique, and it's definitely what we see in Hawaii as well. Okay, last question here, team, I believe, from Maximilian1122. I already asked that one. That was the one I grabbed out of the live chat. So well done. Thanks for sending me those questions, Susan. Yeah, I think Oh, Jay Maniac wants to know, what did you think of the lava tornado or wind tornado yesterday? I didn't see that, but I know what you're talking about. It's common in these eruptions. You've got a lot of heat coming up from the lava. Radiant heat is exceptional around these lava fields. And so you can set up the right conditions. I'm not a meteorologist, to have pressure differences and rotation, shear. Like the wind maybe is blowing this way, but the air is rising in a different direction. So you can set up some shear, produce rotation, and get these little kind of whirlwinds or little mini tornadoes or dust devil kind of things that are produced over the flow field. Okay, last question. Then I've got to go get a bunch of stuff done for the day. Okay, 2 questions, because I see 2 there. From Jonathan D. Over millennia, was the entire island of Iceland built up from these small fish eruptions, or were there larger eruptions? There were definitely larger eruptions, but remember, any bigger event is less frequent. So we tend to, as humans, focus on and sensationalize the big dramatic event, the extinction of the dinosaur, but we're more likely to see these much smaller earthquakes. And so, yeah, so Iceland's history is probably, if you were to watch the movie of Iceland's complete geologic history over the last, 16 million years, you'd probably watch many thousands, maybe more than that, of small eruptions, kind of like what we're seeing here today, punctuated every so often by bigger, more dramatic events. Maybe some of the big stratovolcanoes in the central part of Iceland, maybe big, long-lived and dramatic fissure eruptions like the Laki eruption in 1783. So it's a combination of both that builds Iceland, but I think the more frequent eruption and the more common eruption are these smaller fissure eruptions. Okay, very last question from Andrew Beardsley. The other eruptions happened at a higher inflation level than the previous ones. That does not seem to have happened this time. Any thoughts on why this would be? Yeah, I think I kind of touched on that a little bit. That perhaps the reason why we didn't see the rise of the GPS stations above and well beyond the last high elevation reading from the August eruption, possibly, one interpretation, could be flawed, would be that you've established a much simpler and efficient pathway for the magma to move through from the storage zone to the surface. And instead of needing to overpressurize the magma system, break rock and create those conduits, you had a very smooth conduit system that allowed the lava to move through. It didn't necessarily need to be overpressurized. It could just reach sufficient pressures that it could rise quickly through that conduit. That would explain, I think, the GPS stalling on Tuesday and the days before and Wednesday. And it would also explain the very small seismic signal prior to the eruption. So great question to end on there, folks. Hope everyone enjoyed this live stream. Thanks again to Johan and NatureEye for providing the drone. I mean, that's just a game changer for us. It's so much more fulfilling, I think, to all of us to see and to use the drone. So I let Johan fly it this time because my computer's being a little wonky, but normally I'm the one controlling the drone. Johan's there just to make sure I do things right. And you can have that experience too. If you go to natureye.com, use the promo code, you guys can gift that to someone else, use it for yourself, whatever you want to do. But them allowing us to use that for our geologic learning is incredible. So thanks to them for continuing to provide that service. Thanks as always to Amanda Jo, who was there on site for the flight. I hope that was exciting for her. And Lisa and Susan, thank you for being our moderators and keeping us all organized and on task. And a special thank you, of course, to all the viewers. You guys are awesome. We're a community because of you. And it's great to find other folks who enjoy geeking out to volcanoes and eruptions and folded rocks and whatever, just all the aspects of geology that we all seem to enjoy. So thank you for your time. If you're in the US, have a great Thanksgiving week next week. I'll be down in Arizona, but I'll be sure to do some videos down there, some random road cuts and some other videos. We'll be in Sedona in that area, so beautiful red rock country, plenty of geology to look at. and it should be a good time. So thanks as always to all of you for your support of the channel, for making this great. And we'll see you next time. Take care, be well, and enjoy the eruption while it lasts.